So what do you think?
I think we give NJ a vacation.
I mean,
She gets
you do
great
such
job, I
quality
second that.
you do such quality work every month.
Let's give her a
And
vacation.
I really hate to see you have to rush something out, so let's skip.
Take a vacation.
Yeah,
Okay.
skip up the.
Do you need a second?
I think the only thing, what that would be good is to get something out about when the meeting is.
Yeah.
When and where the meeting is.
Cap can send that out. He sends those reminders out to everybody.
And if we have anything really important, we'll just channel them to Peter and he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
I
MJ has a
appreciate
holiday.
that, because I'm really not sure how I was gonna put two newsletters together in the remaining days of September, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
What I wanna know is what kind of trip is she going on?
She's taking some money to pray.
Go sit down. Going with Ray.
Cancun?
We're gonna all go with you guys.
Anyway, enough of the jocularity here. We have an interesting show today. Tim Sleven is going to show us something that some of us don't do and some of us are very interested in doing. Tim is a son of a World War II photographer, and he's been making images since high school. 40-year career in mental health treatment and leadership, veteran of Vietnam, art and photography education through continuing education classes, workshops, seminars, and since retirement, his interests include encaustic photography, pastel and watercolor painting. He's going to talk to us, and he's going to send around all of these things for us to take a look at. So let's welcome Tim.
Morning, everybody. Nice to be here. And good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Jack, thanks for inviting me. I guess what is Chuck? So we were at Train Day, I guess in April, and that's where we met. And I had a demonstration of this setup and started chatting, and appreciate the invitation. So been doing encaustic about 12, 13 years, I guess. Most recently, most of my time is spent with soft pastels and watercolor right now. And so photography has become photo references for work and images that I've created over time, and doing a lot of that. Two of you said that you've done this kind of work, so you have some familiarity with it. So I'll chat about it. This process is as old as time. If you look at photos of Greek villages and Malta and the ships that are in the harbor, that the bright colored ships, that was encaustic painting. So since for thousands of years, they've used beeswax and encaustic, that's what it is, it's beeswax, mixed with the resin and used for the hulls of ships. Also, Orthodox iconic graphics uses wax as a medium for those. So this process has been around quite a while. I was introduced to it. I took a course at the museum in encaustic painting. So began the painting process and then started looking online, encaustic photography, and found a person named Claire O'Neill, who has a website. And in about 2 weeks, she has a junket that goes to a dude ranch in Wyoming, and everybody goes there and takes pictures of kind of the Yellowstone thing, branding and cows and horses. And then in the afternoon, you go in and you do the Lightroom, Photoshop, and encaustic work. So that's a deep dive if anybody wants to do something like that. But anyway, she had a course, like a 6-session course online, and I took that course. And so I follow kind of that model. And there's different approaches to it. Some are more mixed media, and others are pretty much straight encaustic. So I thought I'd talk through the process, just send some pieces around. And then sort of go through the recipe, all the equipment, how to do it. And there's various ways of doing it. So this is one method that I use that kind of gets to a much more painterly orientation to encaustic work. So I use wooden panels. Buy these at Michael's and that you prepare the surface and you put the images on and you start waxing and fusing, waxing and fusing, waxing and fusing and scraping. I'll go through that in a minute. So I'll pass them around. This is one where you overdo the wax. This is a Edgar Allan Poe thing. You can just see the real rough use here where you use the wax to some extent. This is I did have some handouts too. That's here. Okay. So the method I use is printing, opening the image, and I tend to choose images that have fairly simple, that have a good amount of negative space. If it's busy, I'll use Photoshop and create bokeh if there is some bokeh in the image. But the simpler the image, the better it lends toward it. Now, photographers have different eyes, and it's a very artistic, subjective. But my eye, I prefer soft, slightly out of focus, ethereal kinds of looks. And I think John remembered our photo club that people hated the stuff that I did. They weren't tack sharp pictures of flowers.
They didn't get it.
Yeah. So I tend to go for a more soft, ethereal kind of feel. And so the methods that I use lend themselves to that. So this is the train station at daybreak in Ashland. And this is an example of probably 6 or 7 coats of wax. And I'll walk through that. That's on this side. The method I use is I print on Japanese tissue paper. So a very, very thin paper. And there's probably 2 methods. One method is people print on matte paper. And I have one this is on matte paper. And you'll see it's more, it's sharper than the others. But generally I print on Japanese tissue paper. I just set these around. This is the smaller version, and it's primarily calligraphy paper. People that do calligraphy would use this kind of paper. So that's one effort, and this is just generally. I attended Santa Fe workshops some years ago and did a nude work with models. So this is from that time. Yep.
When you say print, do you have a home printer?
Yeah, I'm going to walk through the steps here in a moment. Yeah. So here's an example of encaustic with collage. So in this example, these are the railroad tracks down by Slave Trail, by the river, and then superimposed on that is some text, and that is another method of using it as a collage. Okay. Another approach. This is a fascinating story from my family. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, but in the 30s, I found a picture of my great-grandfather on the Santa Monica Pier in California. And he was a gold salesman for the potteries in Ohio. And so this is him and how he ever got from East Liverpool, Ohio to Santa Monica Pier in the 30s. But I heard he was a gambler and plenty of gambling going on at that time during Prohibition. So this is an example of doing a coat, maybe 2 coats, and then using pan pastel paints to paint the image. So this was originally a black and white or a sepia and white image. And I went online and I found a picture of Santa Monica Pier in the 30s. So I was able to recreate the colors from the image. So that is a family. All right, I was throwing away some books yesterday. I have 3 photography books. If anybody wants them, it's on the way to Goodwill, and I thought, well, maybe someone might want to pick those up. Okay, I'm going to sort of just walk through how I go about doing this, and I'll send one more around. So this is a different example of using wax with texture, using a thick texture to make it look like sand there. Yeah.
Part of my favorite, did you find encaustic?
It just means beeswax. Encaustic is fusing beeswax onto a surface. Yeah. And it's very similar to in the art world, cold wax medium. So you think of this as hot wax medium. And you can do the same thing with cold wax medium. The only problem with cold wax medium, there's an advantage. It's not as toxic as hot wax, but the disadvantage is it takes about 30 days to dry. It's a long wait, like oil painters, you do a thing and you walk away for a week and you come back, let it dry. All right, so I'm just going to walk through the process and show you some of the equipment that I use. And as I mentioned, I pick out images that would lend themselves first to a 1x1, to a square. As most all of these, not all of them, but most all are square, would lend themselves to a square format. If not, I'll crop it. And I typically use some texture, blur the background through Photoshop if possible, and identify where I want the viewer's eye to go. And there's more composition, but using the golden mean and using the rule of thirds to guide the eye to where the focus would be. So picking out the right pieces is important. For years, I shot black and white square format, so I'm kind of very used to kind of see that square format in my eye. The idea is with any art is to be able to clearly imagine and visualize your end result, knowing what it's going to look like before it's finished, and being able to bring that to some fruition and not just use chance to get there. So I use textures. If anybody uses textures in photography, photomorphosis, fly paper. So those are textures you can buy and use with Photoshop. You open the image, you open the texture, you lay the texture on top, you adjust the opacity to do that. So I typically use textures. See some that have significant textures on them. Oh, this one would. Shot this in Egypt. That has significant texture on it. All right, so I pick out the image, I do the Lightroom adjustments, I take it into Photoshop, I'll do a texture, I may vignette it, and do the typical adjustments that I would do. Then I pick out a panel, pick out a wood panel, and begin preparing the wood panel. And so typically a clear coat of gesso on the panel so that I have a nice white background and something with a little bit of texture for it to adhere to. Get the panel ready, and then the printing process. And so this, for me, historically, has been the hardest part of the whole process. So I use a photo printer. My printer is it's a Canon, what's that? Canon Pro 100. So it's 13 wide, 13. So a 13 by 19 sheet of paper. If you're using regular paper, like this image here, my daughter when she was little, matte paper. But I tape the tissue paper on top of this and take the edges. I've gone through so much trial and error on this. I used double-sided tape and that paper, and that didn't stick. Some days the printer is cooperative. Other days it's not. Other days it loves the thick tape. Other days it chews it up. So this is definitely for me the hardest part. And I probably go through 3 or 4 proofs before I have one ready. There was one floating around of yeah, so you would tape the tissue paper on top of a 13 by 19 sheet of paper, feed it in individually, and make sure that the edges are all taped. I've tried not taping the sides, doesn't like that, depends on the day, but using tape like this seems to work pretty well.
It prints on the paper underneath, not on the.
All right, it prints underneath.
Prints on the tissue.
It's on the
You
tissue.
use the paper as a carry.
Oh, okay.
Carrier sheet, yes.
Grab on to the line.
I should be lighting it the other way, okay,
Yeah, carrier sheet, thank you, yes, exactly.
okay, I got it,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I go through the trial and error, and my goal is to leave at least a ½ inch on each corner. That's why when I'm imagining the image, I have to have in mind, I need some negative space around the side, so it fits on. And this is all learned by trial and error. You know, some of these are 12 by 12, and you know, I get it a ½ inch off, wouldn't work, I have to reprint it again. So using this as a carrier sheet, thank you, remember that term. Then print on the tissue paper, pull the tissue paper off. Then I go into the garage that is well ventilated. So one of the key issues is that is encaustic wax. It becomes toxic over 160 degrees. So I have a fan and I have a mouthpiece. You disagree? No.
Keep on going.
Hmm?
Yeah, it really doesn't become toxic unless you use a pigmented base and it starts to smoke.
Mm.
That's where it becomes really toxic.
Yeah.
It does have a distinct, even if you're below that, just using the encaustic medium, which is beeswax and guar resin, it does have an odor to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I also work in a ventilated, I have a fan, I'm in a room, I have an open window with a fan blowing out.
Yeah.
Get it out, but it really doesn't become toxic unless you use a pigmented base, and it's smoky.
Yeah. Yeah, so I use a ventilator mask and keep a fan going and keep the garage open. So it is a seasonal kind of thing in the middle of winter. Well, our winters now, I guess it won't matter, but seasonal kind of thing to keep the air flowing and try to keep it at 100, 160. And when I'm fusing as well, and I'll get to the fusing stage. So I bring it in and I will then go through some of the equipment here. Here's a hot plate. And the hot plate is used with typical baking pans to heat the wax to where it's nice and fluid. All the things that one needs here. So you get the wax to a nice, and I thought of maybe doing a demo here, but then I'd have to cover the floor. You got liability and heat. So you heat the wax, get it nice and liquid. If you're using, there's encaustic paints, little squares of encaustic paints and liquid paints you can use. If you want to color the surface, this would then a colored surface. This is the colored, mixing the wax with a pigment.
This one, too, Tim?
That would be,
You didn't paint that, that was colored in the wax, am I correct?
yeah, and that's a photo, Virginia Beach, yeah.
Okay,
That's after the fact, yeah,
that's after the fact.
yeah.
Okay.
So this one, you'll notice this is straight on that paper, so there's more clarity since I wanted clarity in the conductor's face, the engineer's face. But others are much softer and use the tissue paper. So I heat the wax, get the wax ready, and then I gesso the board and trim the edges. If I want wax to run over like one of those, I'll just leave it go. Otherwise, I'll tape it up and I'll stain it and have it nice and clean when it's done. So I heat up the wax. I take the sheet, and this is also a challenge of trial and error, and that you put a coat of wax, clear coat of wax on the board, and you lay the image on the board. I put another sheet of tissue paper on it. I use a briar to push it down, get it nice and fused in. And then put a second coat on. And then it's a process of waxing. The heat gun here. Waxing, fusing, trimming with like clay tools. Trim with clay tools. And this is probably the one I use the most. So you're going to get drips, you're going to get inconsistencies. Sometimes you want those. Sometimes you want that feel. Other times, if the drip is right on someone's nose, that's not so good. So you clean it off, fuse. So it's a process of waxing, fusing, trimming, waxing again. And the more you wax, the more translucent it will look. And then I get to a point where there's some finishing off. In this case, finished off with I think it was a kind of a wire scrub brush, and put waxed on and dabbed it on, and then it created a sense of sand on this.
Sam, let me make sure I understand this. You run the photo through the machine and you get it on the tissue paper. And then you heat the wax, and then you apply the wax to the wooden pan.
Correct.
Right, then you put the image on top.
Correct.
And then you apply it again another.
Then you apply it.
With a paintbrush or a.
Right, so you have the tacky brushes, it's all waxed in.
Okay.
Pretty cheap brush. I go about 3-inch brush. Horizontal, back and forth horizontal. And then you take the heat gun and heat the wax, not to where it's liquid, but to where it just begins to shimmer. Just a shimmer. You don't want it to wash all around, unless that's the technique you're looking for. But if you do, then you're going to burn through the print if it gets too hot. So I tend to go back and forth. As soon as it gets to a sheen, back and forth, and then another coat, trim it, fuse it to the point where it's the look you want, and it cools very, very quickly. So you do have some time to work with things.
How do you monitor the temperature of the wax to not go above 160?
I've got a typical baking thermometer here. It's stuck on there now.
Yeah.
The wax. Yeah.
Just overall purpose of doing this, is it for the vintage look that I see in it, or the preservation to make it last longer, or?
It's both, you know, it's, when you chose the flyer, it said art form, and I thought, yeah, it's part craft and it's part art. The art part is a soft, ethereal, diffused kind of look. The craft part, it's a way of framing and matting and, you know, exhibiting your work without putting a frame on and without. So, and it's just a nice look. So it's both part art and craft, yeah.
If one doesn't have a printer.
Yeah.
At home. Does that eliminate his ability or her ability to do this, or can you do it on a lab print?
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, you can do it on your home
On
inkjet printer. So, this would be a print that I did on my regular
A regular print.
8-inch.
You sent it to Richmond camera and they printed
You
it?
could, I just print it at home.
Okay.
So I have my regular paper printer that I do up to 8 inches, I guess, to do up 8 inches, and then the large printer that I can do up to 13
But you can
inches.
print on heavier stuff though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And it's still, the process is still the same, you glue it down with wax, and then you start working at the top.
right,
Okay.
yeah.
The advantage of the tissue, but
The advantage of the tissue, it makes it very soft and ethereal looking. And the more wax you apply, the more softer it looks. I think I was always kind of going for a watercolor look. Because it becomes, this is a very, very soft look. This was a tack sharp image when it started. Then I softened it, I put texture, I printed it, and this is probably 7 or 8 coats of wax to get that. Probably 7 or 8 coats, yeah. But this is an example of, it's just a coating. Others are examples where I've used texture, and once the wax is dry, but almost not dry, some use it as an art form. You put etching in, you can put script in, you can create, you can use stencils on it. I haven't done a lot of that, but many people do that. And there's just wonderful examples of people using multiple collages, like the grandfather picture was I used pan pastel paints on this, and no, I think that's what else have I not mentioned here? Oh, so when it's dry, you can take a microfiber cloth and buff it out and get it nice and shiny when it's really nice and dry. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I want to keep it just matte looking. This is real flat, not buffed out. Others are shiny. Yeah. So wax, fuse, scrape, wax, fuse, scrape, and that's kind of the process. Yeah.
So you can do all of this in Photoshop and Lightroom to get the look that you're really basically looking at.
Yeah.
Color, texture,
Yeah.
whatever you want to be, and then this just enhances what you've done.
Right, yeah.
That's basically what you.
Well, when you do the Photoshop, it's going to be a lot sharper than your final image.
Okay.
So you have to imagine that you've applied 15% blur.
Okay, but you can do that in Photoshop too.
You could, sure,
Okay.
sure. This is just a more hands-on analog
Okay. Yeah.
approach to
Okay.
it.
What kind of printer profile do you use to print on the tissue paper?
Let's see. What the tissue? I don't recall right now. Let me think about that. I think I used the regular Epson matte profile that I was using as the undercarriage,
Okay.
as far as I recall. Yeah. It's a good one. I hadn't prepared and hadn't done one for a while. So. Yes.
I noticed that what you brought in, and it may just be because of convenience, they're about like 10 by 10. Do you ever do anything larger than that?
Yes. Yes.
Not conducive to that.
Well, it is, but it's a Photoshop challenge. So I have a piece that is 9 panels the size of this image that I have hanging in Ashland. So I took this image and in Photoshop I made 9 of these. And then I put 9 on panels, and you can imagine if you're just off by 1/8 of an inch on the nose of the face, it's a lot of trial and error. I went through a lot of copies. So yes, I've done a 3x3.
But each individual piece is that size, you don't do like one, you don't do like a 3 foot wide.
Not me, no, but if you go on YouTube, there are artists that do large, very large encaustic pieces. Very large pieces that would take a lot of wax and big boards, but
I was
I
wondering if the melting was an issue when you go larger, like.
yeah. So there are some YouTube videos of someone doing a large outdoor landscape scene, and they just start at the top, fusing, so it's a very slow, methodical process. I haven't gone to that large format.
Where is that piece hanging in Ashland?
Oh, at the Ashland Meat Company Depot, the coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next time I'm there, I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, and some of these I stole yesterday, I have to take back tomorrow. And the guy who I work with wasn't there, and so, what are you doing taking these paintings? I said, well, they're mine.
I hope they gave you a free cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. All right, what else have I not said? Yeah, I think I've covered everything. Those of you who have done this, would you like to, share your technique or any variation on what I presented that you do or you apply?
Yeah, I'm gonna do something early next year. I know Claire O'Neill, a lot of respect for her, and that I learned from a guy by the name of Wayne Montecalvo. And it's a slightly different, I mean, there are 45 ways to do things, so, and different processes give you different results. And,
Yeah.
yours is one and 40, probably 140,000 of doing it, but it's great work.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always use clear wax? Do you ever use colored wax? How do
Yeah.
you get the vibrancy of the color? Is that all from Photoshop? Some of your pictures are nice and bland, but some
Yeah,
of
this
them.
was a light ochre that I added ochre color to the wax itself. But most of the time I do clear, and I do use Photoshop textures to maybe create the color. But this was with some.
The color comes from Photoshop.
The color came probably 50% from Photoshop and 50% from the wax. This is like one of my first efforts at doing it.
I was just gonna mention, I by chance am starting a 4-week class at the Visual Arts Center in Richmond on encaustic painting this week. I'm not teaching it, I'm taking it. I took, and the instructor's name is Linda Ray. I took a one afternoon class from her a couple of months ago, and she does encaustic painting. So just to let you all know that there are classes out there on using encaustic.
Linda Ray is excellent.
I love the afternoon class.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's on Zoom.
Yes,
And so
yes.
you can do a combination. This is both painting and encaustic photography, so a combination of both, using pan pastel paints that adhere really nicely to wax, by the way.
Basically, any two-dimensional image you can do.
Pardon me?
Any two-dimensional image you can do.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Substrate is.
Yeah.
Is there any part of the process that where you really have to move quickly or is it based?
Oh, yeah, when you first lay it down, that the wax is hot, the paper is extremely thin. And it can wrinkle, you have the fan on because of the wax blowing, but you're trying to get this to lay on the thing. So there's a lot of trial and error involved. I really like the outcome, but between printing it right and laying that first sheet down, those are two more where things could go wrong.
Where did you get your materials?
Okay. So this is R&F encaustic wax. You can buy regular straight wax and mix it with Damar resin. You buy the resin, mix it yourself. And I buy this on Amazon. It's the cheapest price.
Plaza Rod has our,
Yeah.
And you mentioned resin before, where does that fit in?
Well, if you buy straight beeswax, this has the resin already in it. You can buy straight beeswax, which is less expensive, and then you mix it. What is it, 1 for 10? I forget what the mix.
different percentages give you different results.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk to 10 different people who make their own, and they'll tell you they do different percentages.
Yeah,
Is the resin the binder?
it's a binder, yes, yeah,
What was that question? I'm sorry.
Resin the binder. Does it keep it?
yeah. Yeah, without the binder, it would chip
would
off,
just-
or,
Yeah.
yeah. And not adhere, the whole idea is to
And
soak it into the, you want to heat it and soak it into the.
Is that how you get your color too? You use colored resin?
Mhm.
Okay.
Damar resin. DAMAR.
Yeah,
Damar resin.
Pass it around here if you like.
The simplest way is to just go by the caustic medium, which you've already fixed up.
Yeah, I think this is what, $45, $49 a bag. It's not cheap, but
1 pound box of caustic medium.
Mhm.
Well, unless it's double the price, I think it's in the $25 range.
yeah. And some folks make their own.
Images with that cover.
Oh, my. Oh, boy, 20 maybe, I guess.
Okay.
It depends on how many coats I put on. I usually average 6, 7 coats. This was a lot more coats. Probably 7 or 8, but yeah, I get 20, 30.
Now, does this resin melt into the wax
Yeah,
at a certain temperature?
correct, yeah. And then if you do want to do painting, encaustic painting, then you can use encaustic paints. You melt that as well and do the painting and then the waxing and the fusing on top of the.
But you need a lot of colors to it. With it.
Well,
You know,
I
you
just,
need a palette.
like I have a yellow,
No, I mean, the actual painting.
actual paint colors.
Yeah.
I have a yellow and I have a black, which is all the shades of gray that I would need. I have a,
But that's what, you said, there were people who use this just to paint.
just
Like
like,
what, like it was. water.
yeah, then they would have a fuller
Oh,
palette,
they have to have a-
at least the primary colors to mix, yeah.
Yeah. Are you working on any special projects right now?
Well, I'm doing all the, well-known Hanover scenes, courthouse, and I have those going on. And then continue doing some train things at Queen of Steam. Thanks for that. I'm gonna take that trip, definitely. And yeah, continue for, train day things. What else am I doing in wax? Yeah, those are the major ones. I'm in a watercolor studio right now, so I'm doing mostly watercolor right now. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Do you mind if any of us have any particular questions about these? Come up and ask.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to see one of the images and ask them how we did it, come on up.
And here I have 3 books if you want any
If you want a free book, I'll
free book.
We had a question.
Yes, sir.
Semi.
Yeah, the once I apply the wax, my heat gun's ready and I'm ready to fuse. And then once I fuse that, you've got a few minutes to carve it and clean it and use the tools to make it smooth, but it dries pretty quickly as opposed to cold wax medium, which is the opposite of this, where you use cold wax. And it's easy to work with. It's not that toxic, but it takes forever to dry because you use oil paints to mix it with it. And it's fun. I've done a whole bunch of pieces with cold wax medium, But it has to sit there for like 21 days before I can bring it out. It takes forever to grow.
You, as you're going, if it gets too hard, if it dries too fast, can you fix that a little bit with the heat gun? I mean,
Yeah,
to mellow it out a little.
yeah, you just don't want it to get liquid. You just want it to get shimmery. Yeah. And I'll go back after a while, look at it and say, oh, I need to bring out the face a little bit more, and I'll do the heat gun again and wax around it and come back to it, like any art piece, come back to it and you get it to where you're where it's done but not overdone, like in any art piece, you need to know when to stop when it's finished. Okay.
Anybody have any questions or anything you want to keep?
Is it very synthetic wax that they use too, or does it have to be pure beeswax?
Not that I know of.
I
Now, cold wax medium is a synthetic wax, I think, the cold wax.
the cold wax, because I used to use the for some sculpturing, I used to use gloss wax. That we use gloss wax when you create a sculpture,
Mhm.
and it burnt out, and that was synthetic, and I used to use it as a medium to sculpt with.
Mhm.
But it was brownish color,
yeah.
only one color.
Huh.
But I believe it was synthetic.
Huh.
But this was many years ago.
Hmm.
But I'm just wondering if there's a synthetic wax that you can use.
It'll be worth looking into, yeah. Yeah, well,
Our treasurer has something here.
okay.
Yes. Thank you, Tim.
Okay,
Great presentation, man. I mean, I've never seen.
you gonna give it a try?
I'm not sure about that.
You're a window shopper.
Yes.
And not a customer.
It's not a work area.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I can give you a
Oh,
little.
appreciate
honor
that. Thank
to
you.
our special presenters
Thank you.
and the world
Right.
famous Richmond Photography
All
Club.
right.
World Fair Cup.
Yeah,
World famous. Yeah.
it actually keeps you. I don't know if you're coffee breaker.
Yeah.
Keeps you hot.
6 hours, only the Richmond Digital.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's a lot.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll pick up.
Okay, we're gonna go to photo share now. Tim's gonna wait and pick up later. Tim, it's all yours. The challenge was looking up and looking down, so we hopefully have to find it out. Oh, this is me. This is one of my favorite cruise shots from years and years ago when my son was a rower. And I used to stand on bridges as they went underneath. And this was still just about my favorite cruise shot. Looking straight down. That's in the British Museum, again, up on one of the balconies looking down. I always like the reflections of the two walkers in the window. Well, we all know what that is, coming back from Boston in the plane, looking down on the coast. That's one of the bridges down on the James, and I don't know which one, but again, looking up. The Dominion, when it was under construction. Remember that, when they tore down the old one and put up the new one? And again, I went down there one beautiful day and light yellow crane. Who knows what that is? Nancy knows.
That's at the MFA?
Steps at the MFA, right. Over standing on one of the bridges over the James, walking underneath. Just waiting how the shadow was just right. That was when the observation deck on the city hall was open. You could go up there and get some nice shots. Traffic reflected. Again, same place. I think it's still closed. And if it's open, it's just a fantastic place to go and get shots. You can go.
Where was that, Peter?
It's the observation deck on top of City Hall. Downtown. And you can get everything from the traffic to the pedestrian in the rain and the yellow signal. That was at an overpass in London, I think. There's a couple, they had bikes for rent. And this couple was, it looks to me like they're trying to decide whether they really want to get on the bike.
Yeah.
Out at the airport, of course, there's a spot there where you can get right underneath the planes coming in. In downtown, I'm not sure which building it is. I think that's the new medical center for children. And I think that's it for me. Yes. Thanks. Okay, who's up? Leo?
Couple of buzzards in the morning, Williamsburg.
How did you do that? You just got there at the right time at the right place?
That's all it was. No credit due to me. I saw them, took their picture. They were doing all the work. This is from Dock Street. Looking up the chimney. Yet another picture.
The same one here.
Yeah. Looking down, you can see all kinds of little creatures. Yesterday. Chesterfield Power Station, another chimney. Down in Manchester. Another view of the main building.
Yeah.
Must be a million.
That's a great place to shoot.
Yes, it really
Day
is.
or night.
Yeah.
Which building?
It's the new Dominion building downtown. It's just, Nancy, have you and I done that?
Wasn't there yet.
It wasn't there yet when we went out.
Looking up at Dragon's Line, the light comes from, get a little different perspective, looking down at this is in Southwest Virginia. There's an overcoming state named by Hungry Mother State Park.
Hungry Mother.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't give it that state.
It's a great state park.
It is a wonderful.
It is.
Yeah. Looking up at some power lines over by Belmont Park by the golf course. Looking down, find another little katydid. This was a couple days ago. The Monroe Building, always, that plaza is very interesting place to go and shoot on the weekends. You can park and walk up the stairs, and there's 95 and downtown and the building, and there are a lot of things to shoot from there. Natural Tunnel State Park in Scott County. I was there last week. The cave is, I think they say 850 feet long. Norfolk Southern has active tracks that go through it. didn't get to see a train go through while I was there, but it's a lovely location. It's really quite impressive. The environment is just stunning. You don't think you're in the state of Virginia when you see these huge cliffs. There's the paper mill. Pardon? It's in Scott County. Way southwest. It's like Cedar Bluff and Big Stone Gap and Wise down in that area.
Leo, when you took that picture, where were you on?
There's an overlook
Okay.
for looking down in there, and then there's a trail that you can walk down and look in the cave. It's really quite interesting. This is the paper mill in West Point. Looking up at all there. This is a single tree at Caledon State Park. And I kind of got up into where I could take a photo straight up, and it's got 5 huge trunks, and it's just gigantic at the bottom. That's a poplar tree. They tend to do that, I think. The Science Museum, you've done these before. I got that idea from you. I stole your idea.
I like yours better,
Well,
better than posed.
we try. We all try.
Did you almost blow point like, like I did?
Yeah, yes. Looking down at, I think this was at Three Lakes Park Nature Center, looking over the rail.
Yeah. That's a new place too.
And this is looking up Wilburn Ridge in Grayson Highlands State Park. I think that's the last one. Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Gotta come back to this. I was born and bred in New York City. Went to school at Pace College, Pace University down by City Hall Park. Watched them dig the holes for the foundation and build the towers. This photo was taken in November of 2004. And you know, I was walking down. That was the first time I had been back to New York City. Since I was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time. The first time I've been back to New York City since 9/11. And when I passed by the gate, it was all fenced off or whatever. And I was able to push my camera through and saw the, the cloth overhanging the cross beam, which looks like a cross, which is pretty unusual for a Jewish guy. I didn't think about it, but it was. And then the reflection in the building, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the reflection in the modern building, the reflection of the older building, and back of me on the newer building in front of me. To me, it kind of represented what New York is. And, it's not only the city that doesn't sleep, but it's a city that just will not die, cannot die. And it's a very emotional picture for me. This is one of my encaustic creations, and I'll explain how I do a lot of my stuff next, when I do this. But it's a collage. It's actually a 3-layer collage. The statue is called American Youth Rising from the Sea, and it's part of the American Cemetery in Normandy, France. The middle ground is a historic photo, and the background, the sky is one of my file shots. I had the sky, and I call this red sky in morning. This is, by the way, is on a 30 by 30 board. Somebody was asking about it large. Getting back to the mundane. The water tower in Richmond, kind of, made it to black and white, just like it, underneath the trestle down by the train station. And, just like the way the sun rays are coming down, through it. And this is the ICU Institute of Contemporary Art, VCU. A lot of people I've seen the print of this, told me the photo looks a whole lot better than the building. And that's it.
A couple of years ago, my wife and I had the opportunity to go to Paris and I found it fascinating. We spent a lot of time at the Arc de Triomphe, and this is looking up at the ceiling underneath the arc. And I just kind of like the texture, the angles, shapes. So that's a long way up. We were down on the ground floor. This is from the top of the arc. That's the Champs-Elysees, where people spend a lot of money that they don't have on things they don't need, I think. You can see it. When I was up there, we were up there for several hours. And the lighting was good and not so good at different times. But the thing that was amazing, I took pictures from all around, was the traffic pattern. I mean, you could see how people just kind of drive in wherever they want to turn. It really doesn't matter.
You see any accidents?
Pardon?
You see any accidents?
Did
you see any
No.
accidents?
No accidents at all. They it's about and they get the scooters that are zooming in and out. And I don't think we saw an accident the whole time we were there. It's amazing. If that were 95, it would have been closed for months. Yeah. This is a picture that I took looking down, obviously. I call it bottoms up, and I took it from the T. Potter Field Bridge. Most of you have been there. I think that's one of the best places in the city to shoot pictures of wildlife and different kinds of things. So this was just one evening I was out there. My wife and I went out for a walk, and I don't know whether they were all shy or whether they were all feeding or what they were doing. That's nice. This is another Paris picture. That is the tomb of Napoleon. And the thing that amazed me about that is all gold on the top of that dome. It's pure gold. And when you think of what it must have taken to build that, it was really amazing. And these are just some young people in a building. We were walking along the street, and they had obviously stepped out of a meeting or something, and we're taking a break, and one's talking on her phone, the other's texting, two others are just kind of enjoying the break.
That's it.
Thanks, Doug.
This one's mine. This is looking up into the lighthouse in Corolla. They charged you to go up the lighthouse. I didn't want to go up. I just wanted to take pictures. And this is looking down, this is at Lewis Ginter, I was on the edge of the one of the reflecting pools there, and I was photographing the lily pads. But I had the great reflection up of the underside of the structure there, so I thought that was a pretty cool shot to take. Good, kind of an optical illusion.
Yeah.
This is also at Lewis Ginter that same day, went into the butterfly house. I don't think the butterflies are going to be there next year. Really? Because they're going to start in the spring and revamp the conservatory. They're expanding it. They are going to put in a permanent year-round butterfly house. So I think next year that part's going to be closed as they expand and rebuild the conservatory. But I took this one out there that day. This is a bull thistle that I picked up along the highway. I like them. I'd like to grow them in my yard. They're really prickly. I have to use gloves to handle. I had insomnia a couple weeks ago, and one morning I was laying awake, said I might as well get up and go down and see if I can take some photographs. So I went down to Belle Isle and I got a shot of the city. And then this was later on. I never did see the actual sun. The sky got really bright, and then cloud cover took over, and I never actually saw the sun itself. I just had the glow in the sky. And then I went to Shenandoah with my wife and grandson, and we did some hiking. And the one night I went out to, this is from the big meadow looking down toward Tanner Ridge, I believe it is. And it was a pretty nice sunset that day. And then this was at the end, I had that tree that was in the previous picture. I got closer and I shot the sun through the tree. Kind of like that one. And then this is one that I took in June out in Shenandoah. There's just a stand of trees there in the big meadow. And then I've been playing around with it, just trying to, I wanted to go with kind of a soft focus, Monet type of a look. So,
What did you do here?
I basically took the clarity and the texture down on Lightroom. I basically put that was it was about to rain, and I did get caught in the rain taking picture, so the sky is pretty dark. But I just kind of I like that texture with it.
That's it, caustic.
Pardon?
That's good, it's caustic.
Yeah. And before I something I didn't want to talk about real quickly. I've been doing a lot of photography out at Lewis Ginter. And at the end of the month, I'm doing one on nighttime photography around the encaustic sculptures. The gardens asked me to do that. I said, sure, that'd be good. And then they were telling the artist, Kate Rowdenbush, about this. She was really, yeah, that's really good. She said, but she wanted to make sure that I convey to the students that they aren't permitted to try to sell any photos they take of the sculptures as their own intellectual property. And I call bullshit on that. Sure. Because you're taking photographs of public art in a public garden. You're not claiming that these are your sculptures.
Right. Who made the statement?
Huh?
Who made that statement?
Kate Rowdenbush, the sculptor.
The sculptor.
Yeah, I think now that's, so they wanted me to convey that to the class, which I will not. But I thought, no, that's not right. Nobody is, you take the photograph of it, you're not claiming that this is your sculpture. You're claiming that this is you capturing it in the environment. Which is,
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of a unique perspective.
I put together once something on legal rights of photographers, and maybe I should show it sometime, because essentially, we can do a lot of stuff and don't have to worry about it. If it's public, it's fair game. But I'll show that sometime. And there are very few cases where you can't take shots. If you're at an accident scene, the police say get out of here in a federal office building or something, but generally you're out and about and it's public.
In the VMFA, there are certain works that will say do not photograph.
Right.
Most of them,
Even, yeah, even in the VMFA.
Yeah.
And you're not presenting it as your work, you're just taking a picture of something.
no, one of the most popular photos that I've taken was of the Kahindi Wagon statue out
Right.
in front of the VMFA. And I captured it with the great sky behind it. Been a very popular photo. I'm not claiming that sculpture.
Yeah.
But I like the
We
photo.
would have
Did
to
they
do
say
the
you
same thing
couldn't
for the
take a
statue.
photo and you couldn't sell
You put so,
a photo?
but even still, I mean, I have taken some, they haven't sold, but I'm not claiming them to be my runway sculpture. But I have captured it in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah. When in doubt, shoot,
Yeah.
Our president said.
and worry about it later, because, it's just. Obviously, you don't invade somebody's privacy.
Right.
You don't put your camera in a window of a house and take a picture of somebody inside the house. Obviously, you don't do that. But
I
basically,
think what the sculptor is doing is claiming that, no, that's her copyright.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not gonna speak to it, it's, and any lawyer I ever heard talk about it, it's kind of like, well, every answer is it depends, you know,
Yeah.
on a lot of different things. For example, you know, Chuck, you were showing Paris pictures. The Eiffel Tower itself can be photographed during the day, but whoever put the lights on the Eiffel Tower at night is claiming a copyright to the lights. And they're saying, you know, like, you can't publish it. You cannot publish the Eiffel Tower at night with the lights, because the lights are copyright. It's a murky area.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I would think that if you're copywriting a sculpture, then somebody else can't make that same sculpture. But to take a photograph of that sculpture in a public place, I think there's not a leg to stand on.
yes, it's the public place part of it that's.
Yeah.
That protects you, and it's, and each country is different, you know, you have different rules in different countries.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, what may fly here may not somewhere else. But basically, I always just shoot and ask, worry about it later.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than.
Yeah, don't get too intimidated.
And like you said, there was no problem taking photos, it was selling photos.
Yeah, and selling puts you in a different category.
But even selling them, I don't
The
think
public place question brings up a good issue. Is Ginder a public place? You have to pay to get in. It's privately owned and you have to pay to get in. Is Ginder a public place?
Good question.
It's open to the public.
It's open to the public.
It's not
Is it a
including
public
people
place?
out.
It's not really a public, it's private property. I mean, the same thing when you go into the shopping centers, they're private property. And they have the right to, they have the right to tell you you cannot take photos. So that could be an issue again. It's not a public place.
Well, it certainly would be if you were short pump. I mean, that's a private facility. If you were leaning over a balcony there and taking pictures of people, a guard could tell you to stop. But if you're in the city in Kanawha Plaza or something and taking pictures.
That's different.
That's different.
But here the sculpture is in Lewis Ginder Botanical Gardens, which is private property.
But what does Lewis Ginter, do they have a rule on photography? Do they have guidelines on photography?
the only guideline that I'm aware of is if you're a professional photographer and you want to like do a wedding shoot or something, you have to, you actually have to pay them to come in to do that.
That's the use of property.
That's
That's just the use of property. That's just the use of
Yeah.
property.
But the VMFA, I think on their website says photography is generally allowed.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're free and clear.
Right, I mean, just ask the question, what would Michelangelo do for the shots of David?
Right.
What would he have to say about it?
Yeah.
How many pictures, how many people have taken the shot of the David sculpture? I mean, it's just crazy. To the public space.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things that it's the foolishness of enacting policies that can't be enforced. Yeah,
Well, if you made a ton of money off a photograph, then that might be, the copyright lawyer said, well, it depends, how much did you make from that? And that'll be can you say you
What
made?
the sculptor is saying is that you cannot, you cannot sell photo of this.
We had a whole meeting on that, so, right. Well, Tom warned us about it, so that was that. He told us.
I don't know what's right or what's, if she's right or not, but.
take the shot and then worry about it later.
Yeah,
I had a situation, many years ago. Two fellows were casting nets at sunset, casting nets into the ocean at sunset. And here I took a picture, it was beautiful, the sun was behind them, well, they saw me. And they dropped their nets and they ran at me.
Oh my goodness.
And they told me to delete the picture. And I had to show them that I deleted the picture. So there were situations where you're physically threatened.
Well, that's always the case, because I was at the Festival of India on Saturday, and that's open to the public. And I asked people to take pictures, and 9 out of 10, there are no problems, but one woman didn't want a picture taken. You always have to honor that request. You just don't take her picture,
Whether it's legal or not.
whether it's legal or
Have to
not.
be,
yeah.
It's the ethical.
you have to be human about it.
Yeah.
So anyway. Something
Sorry,
that,
we gotta-
no, it's all right, something to continue, I mean, it's
It's a continuing topic.
issue. My husband and I went on a 35-day cruise, and it's our first extended cruise, and it was great. We were on the Holland America, and they do an annual trip, it's called Voyage of the Vikings. So we went to Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Iceland, Greenland, Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, and the amazing thing was after 35 days, my husband and I are self-quarantined.
Did Ray pay for this?
Oh, well, that's, that's on the discretionary funds, right?
When was this?
It was from July the 22nd through August the 26th.
Of this year?
Of this
Oh, wow.
past. So I wasn't here for Ling and Bill's presentation in person, but I got it on Zoom, so thank you, Kemp. It was fun. So these are just some of my images, and Kemp will just go through them like 3 seconds. But that's our ship, and that's what we started to look at. This was in, I think, Prince Christensen Sound in Greenland. The water was really clear. I thought I was in the Caribbean. These are just some of the images I captured.
What was the temperature?
I had to buy a coat. Do you know how many coats I have in my closet? I figured we're used to going to the Caribbean, so I thought, okay, I'll bring a fleece jacket, a sweater, and a windbreaker. Not enough. Thank God they had it on the ship, because we went whale watching, and it was still not enough. I happened to bring gloves and hat, but it was.
I don't think it ever
Low
gets warm.
50s, 40s.
Never gets warm around Greenland. I don't
Yeah, not for us, but there were kids who were short sleeves and, running around in shorts, like got tank tops, and like, you have at it, have fun, but I'm with my jacket,
It's
and
really-
I'm like, got to add to my collection in my closet again. So, yes, it was pretty cool. And these are just some of the, the images that, I mean, again, the water was so clear. Yeah, now, yes.
It's glacier?
Yes.
Is that glacier received?
I don't know. I'm sure it is at some point. Now, this is a tiny village, about 100 people live there. And we're like, oh my God, this is in Greenland. And I don't know if that boat is an Amazon delivery. I don't know. But I'm like, more power to them. And the colorful houses, I'm thinking it's because it's so gray there in Greenland. But I know blues back in the day, blue meant colors mean different things. Yellow is your hospital, medical. Red generally is your churches and commercial buildings. I think blue was your fishing people, and black was the police the police out there, but that was a community of 100 people. This is the town of Pamuet in Crimson. And for me, I discovered that the more remote a town is, the more I like it. Yeah. Because I can find a Starbucks, a KFC in any large city around the world. But, you know, these are just some of the cities, some of the houses, the areas in the Pamuet.
Presumably makes a living off fishing.
Mostly fishing, and there were some cars, but you really can't get around unless you had a boat or a helicopter. Now, last month, we had that creative manipulation with a truck, and I thought that truck really belonged in a graveyard. So that's why I put it there. But this was the actual, I had to panic because I had like 3 or 4 shots of this graveyard.
I remember,
Yeah, in Greenland. And we walked all over the place. It was great. This is in another town, Nanartarlik, Greenland. And it was early in the morning, but it was very interesting. It was summer. You know, and I know I should change the sky AI. I'll work on that, but not right now. This is in the early morning. So it's a very colorful town, little port. Here we're in Iceland, in Ísafjörður, Iceland. Still in Iceland. Ayukeri. We're here in Lerwick, Shetlands, Scotland. I like a lot of the British mysteries, so they Adam Daglish.
Did you watch Shetland? The series
No,
Shetland?
no, I didn't, but
Oh,
I've seen it. I've seen other things that refer to it, but it's Shetland. I'm like, oh my God. This is Rotterdam. And there are 19 windmills there, and they're part of the UNESCO, and all of them are rented by like regular people, because they now have a pump house and all of that to control the water.
That's their house.
Yes, a lot of them rent it today as a regular, it's very small. I think it's less than 500 square feet. And I did climb one of them, the one that they allowed the tourists to climb up. I'm like, oh my God, if something happens to me, my husband was not with me. But if something happens to me, I know he'll finish me off. I told you not to go up those stairs. But it was fun and I'm glad I did it, survived to tell. This is in Cobb, Ireland, which is, I think, north about an hour of Cork, where the Blarney Stone is, but we went to Cobb. I think there is a big HOA plan in Ireland. And I think if you're Irish, you are required to plant flowers or something outside your home, and that's wherever, I saw it, and it's like everywhere I went in Ireland and Scotland.
That's nice.
This is outside of a huge cathedral in Cobb again. This is, you may recognize it, it's in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I have a final shot here coming up. And those are all the tourists that were crawling all over the place. Like, I should have come out here in the sunset or the sunrise, but it was, but that was our trip. And it took a lot of discipline to gain only 2 pounds, which is what you know. It was great. It was great.
It's nice, Sue.
Okay, so this is mine, and it is not me looking up, but the bird looking down. This is an anhinga, which is a bird that normally lives in a more tropical climate, but there are several anhingas who've been taking up residence in a swamp in Hanover County the last few years. And this is a male anhinga, and he's in breeding plumage, and you can tell that he's a breeder because of the blue eye ring. And they're very dramatic birds.
Did you have to wait a long time for this guy to come up there, or?
If things go at the right time of year. And then this This is, so the Anhinga was looking down, this is a great blue heron at Tuckahoe Creek Park. Looking straight up, and I just found his pose amusing, where you can see the eyes on either side of his beak in a very inverted way. And that was in the fall last year, so the yellow is the fall blues reflecting in the water.
That's me. Well, that's not me. That's a pineapple in a supermarket. You took that in a supermarket? Yeah, at the International Food Mart over in wherever you told me, I don't know. I get in the car and she takes me. Mushrooms, I was out on, that's actually, I took that with my cell phone, I was walking in my neighborhood with these mushrooms. So I snapped a picture of them in the grass. So I took a class recently, not a class, and online, I watch on Tuesdays, it's a photo talk and learn, and it was about minimalism one week, so. I just looked up and I got the word, and it was minimal, and I said, it's too lonely, so I just phoned two more in.
Oh,
That's great.
Yeah, so I really only got one, I just looked up, snapped it, and got one.
I thought you got really lucky.
And
It's just one.
again, that's our parent, obviously, that's a blue parent, and I looked up and got that one. And then I just converted it to negative. Wow. Nancy, you converted negative, that was in, used Tokat? Or was that Photoshop? Not Photoshop, I don't use Photoshop, could have been in Elements, or I just made the black white and white black, maybe I just use levels, I don't remember. Simple, I don't think it's so. A flower, enter. More flowers. Looking down at the you are.
That's it.
That's it.
I guess that's it. Okay.
We have to do anything with the chairs and tables?
No.
they were out here.
Like that.
They say, come on up and take a look if you want.
Yeah.
And we will, let you know about the next meeting. And Ray is going to throw you in for the evening. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Thank you all. Here's the thing for next time. Autumn colors. For next time, autumn colors.
That's my wife.
That one that we went, that's perfect. Actually out there, he's 6 years old. And, all of it, how much time.
Oh, yeah.
It's only like.
Yeah.